Welcome to Alexify, the place for fashion. This week I am joined by the communications lead at Sway the Future. Please join me in extending a warm Alexify welcome to Alyssa Pace. How are you doing, Alyssa?
Hi, Lexi. It's so nice to be here. I'm doing great. I'm really happy to be on with you today.
I am so happy that you could come on. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me. So, like I mentioned, you work at Sway, which is a biotech company that believes the next generation of materials can replenish life from sea to soil. Can you expand on what that means?
Yeah. And I think that starts with just really zooming out to the big picture here, which is that plastics are made from petroleum. Plastics are incredibly resource extractive. They emit greenhouse gases throughout their entire toxic existence, which never really ends because they never fully break down. But plastics are also here for a reason. They're this wonder material. Plastics can take on pretty much any structure you want them to. They can be lightweight, they can be flexible, they can be durable, and they protect items in transit, which is really important for this global age that we're living in, where everything is getting shipped around the world. And plus, they're cheap, like really cheap. And that is because they are so heavily subsidized by the oil industry. So sometimes we can avoid plastic, like with paper and cardboard, or even no packaging at all, which is always going to be the best option. But sometimes we can't. Flexible, single-use packaging is this primary necessary plastics we like to talk about. So for example, any kind of brand that you can think of probably has a production center. Oftentimes this is overseas. They're shipping an item from the production center to their fulfillment center, which maybe is in the US if they're a US-based company, and then they're shipping it to you as a customer. And sometimes there's some steps in between, right? And there are alternatives that have been made from corn or potato or sugarcane. And for anyone who's listening out there, maybe you've received a package that says it's compostable, but these crops, growing these crops, often comes with a whole set of issues. So Sway exists to replace oil or any of the other alternatives I just mentioned with seaweed. Seaweed is this really incredible marine crop. It grows without the need for fresh water or fertilizer or arable land. And then just by growing, it's replenishing ecosystems. It can purify water, it can create habitat, it can reverse ocean acidification, reduce erosion. Seriously, there's just so much good that happens just by growing seaweed. And it's also really important because it can help secure climate resilient employment in coastal communities that are often the most vulnerable to climate change. To bring it all the way back to our sea to soil slogan, Sway uses seaweed as the basis of our materials, which are designed for home and industrial composting. And then that's where the soil part comes in. Our packaging will break down into a healthy soil amendment after use, and that's thanks to seaweed.
That's so interesting. Like you mentioned, seaweed is this great thing, and all your products are made with responsibly sourced seaweed, which then are non-toxic and GMO free. And like you said, they are home and industrially compostable and support healthy ecosystems and communities. So why are things like these aspects, why is this so important to have in these products?
To start, because plastic provides virtually none of these benefits. Plastics are wreaking havoc on our environment, our wildlife, our bodies. And like I said earlier, they're never really going away. They're just breaking down into microplastics or nanoplastics, which can reach our bloodstreams, our lungs, our brains. And Sway believes that the materials that we interact with on a daily basis have the ability to not just keep us at neutral, but to go beyond and do better. And there are so many incredible bio-innovators out there who are creating all kinds of materials. It's not just Sway. There's folks that are using lionfish, an invasive species, to create leather. Folks are creating fabrics out of banana plants, sneakers out of grape stems and leaves, puffy jackets from cattail fluff. So many cool things are out there. And then we're seeing brands that are as big as Stella McCartney, Nike, Adidas, all starting to use these kinds of materials. And I expect that this trend is going to start trickling down to all sorts of brands.
I mean, I certainly hope so. So to create your guys' products, you use thermoplastic seaweed resin. in place of plastic. So what exactly is this and how is it created?
That's right. Yeah. What most of us don't know, and I definitely didn't before I started working with Sway, is that most of the plastics that we know today come from pellets, these tiny little beads of plastic that are melted and formed into the products that we're using in our day to day. So earlier this year, Sway unlocked this huge technological breakthrough by creating our thermoplastic seaweed resin, which is kind of a mouthful. We call it TPC, with the C like ocean sea for short. And this is special because seaweed typically doesn't want to melt. Usually it just burns. But this product that we've innovated can melt and stretch, and that allows it to drop into globally scaled plastic manufacturing machinery. And our incredible R&D team made this happen with a whole lot of polymer science and material science brilliance. But to simplify it, a whole lot is essentially we mix together seaweed and plant ingredients. We put that into a machine, which extrudes these long spaghetti-like kinds of strands. And then this feeds into another machine, which chops up that spaghetti noodle into tiny little pellets. And then voila, you have resin. And then we work with manufacturing partners all around the US who can convert that resin by melting it through these machines into the bags that our customers and consumers see.
That's so interesting. Oh my gosh. I would love to see that work out and see how it happens all in real life. Like that sounds so interesting. You mentioned this a little, but the resin is the base for your TPC Flex film, which is the first of its kind for seaweed packaging, which is very cool. So with this, you talk about healing the ecosystem rather than harming it, which I think is so important. So why do you think that more people aren't really using this yet?
Uh, I'm so glad that people want to see this in the world. That's probably our most asked question, besides asking if you can eat it, which no, please don't eat our packaging. Um, but yeah, and the truth is just that the reality of creating a material that has never been made before, particularly one that is competing with the plastic industry, is a huge challenge. Sway is just a few years old. We were started in 2020, and we're a small team, just 8 people. And to date, our existence has been spent collecting data, on the ground partnerships with ocean organizations and compost organizations. We have established this incredible supply chain from sea to soil of seaweed farmers and processors to manufacturers, plastic manufacturers who are willing to innovate with new kinds of materials like sways. And we have transformed this initial prototype that our founders made into a real product that's being piloted. So from the ground up, we've responsibly built a business and a product, multiple products really. And now is when we start to work on the scale part. So it's a complex process, but we are getting there with time. And I think we're just about to embark on some really, really rapid growth. So you should be seeing Sway in the wild a lot more.
Oh, I certainly hope so. Well, I feel like that is something that's talked about though with like sustainable companies is like it's sustainable, but then is it possible to be scalable? What are your thoughts on this? Because I feel like this is something that's talked about. Maybe not so much Sway, but like maybe like a more like fashion brand or something. Like how do we scale that and keep it sustainable?
That's always the question, right? Yeah, there's so many amazing innovations, but bringing them from an idea into something that works on the financial model side and the production side and the supply chain side takes a lot of thought, a lot of strategy, a lot of time. So I think it's actually really key that we're not seeing these innovations happen too quickly,
Mm.
because if something was just being speed lined to the very end, it probably wouldn't be grown in a way that's going to sustainably scale. So that's a big part of Sway's mission. We're really trying to consider this in a thoughtful way. We have the opportunity to do something entirely new. So let's do it in the right way, one that's going to create lasting success.
Hmm. No, completely. And I think that's so important. I feel like with brands that are truly sustainable, when you speak with people, when I speak with you, I'm like, I can tell that the aspect of sustainability is truly your mission. It's truly important to you guys. rather than just like it's an afterthought or like a marketing strategy or like some sort of greenwashing thing. And so I feel like that's the difference in like some of the things that we're seeing out there nowadays where it's no like I'd rather take this slow. I'd rather find the most sustainable way to do this. Obviously, yes, we still want to make money or we still want to produce products or we still want to do this, but we want to make sure that if we're doing it in the most sustainable way possible. So I think that that's really amazing that I can really see that with you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, we're in it for a good time and a long time.
Yeah. I love that. I love it. I love it. So, how can brands and companies partner or work with you guys?
Yeah, we're very lucky. We have a lot of brands that are interested in using us, which is so exciting. So for anyone, if you're listening right now, or you know a brand that you think would be interested in Sway packaging, we always encourage them to visit our wait list, which is online. You'll find it pretty easily if you log on to swaythefuture.com.
Mm,
As such a small team, we just don't have the capacity to offer our materials to everybody immediately.
mhm,
So this wait list is a method for just helping us figure out who has the most aligned products and teams to work with us right now versus who we would like to circle back with in the future when we have more expanded capacity.
mhm.
Yeah, we're looking for brands who really want to make a splash with new kinds of commitments in sustainability, going beyond the norm. Folks who want to really dive into the world of seaweed and just really shout it from the rooftops and join Sway in our very core mission of providing education and accessibility to new kinds of materials.
Amazing. If you're a brand listening, check out Sway. So you guys also make first wave film. How does this differ from your flex film?
Good question. So remember how we talked about pellets earlier on? Sway's first product that we ever created, which is called First Wave, it's a flexible film. It doesn't come from pellets. This is actually a formula it's a liquid-based formula, and it requires a bit of a more hands-on process to create it, which ultimately just means more time, more energy, and because of that, a higher price of the final product. TPC Flex, which is our pellet-based flexible film,
Mm,
was created because the pellet is the key unlock to higher volumes at a lower price, which is very important if you do want to scale a product.
mhm,
And the formulation is a little bit different as well. We blend in another home compostable polymer along with our seaweed implants that provides the performance that we need, which can help this film hold up through global shipping supply chains, which those conditions can become extremely hot and extremely humid very quickly. And we want a film to be able to hold up against that.
mm.
So yeah, in short, the TPC Flex film that we have more recently created after First Wave was created to enable more access to more seaweed packaging more quickly. But that said, we're still working on ways to optimize First Wave in similar ways.
Awesome. That's so exciting. So, how can people make sure to dispose of Sway packaging correctly?
Compost our materials. Please compost them either at home or through your municipal services. Composting is one of the best things that you can do for the planet. It cycles nutrients back into earth where they came from and doesn't leave a trace. We have a ton of composting resources on the Sway website and on social media. So anyone who's interested in composting, no matter where you live, if your county offers municipal services or not, if
Mhm.
you're in an apartment or you do have in a backyard, we have resources for you to get started.
Awesome. That's so cool. I love compostable things. That is so great. I need to get one. I don't have like a compost bin. I attempted to have one, and I just don't think that I knew enough information about how to compost correctly. So now that some time has gone by, I would really like to retry and get a compost bin. They're a little bit expensive, but in the end, in the long run, they're important.
Yeah, no, practice
And
definitely makes perfect. And there's so many different kinds of methods.
yeah.
Obviously, I love compost. I'm trying all of the different methods because I want to make it work at home.
Hmm.
Context, Sway is located up in the Bay Area where the county offers composting services. Everyone gets a little green bin that they can put on their kitchen countertop, and then you can throw your food scraps and sway and paper and cardboard and all kinds of things into your green bin, and then the city or county will take it away for you. But where I live in Santa Barbara, which is also a fairly green city and
Yeah.
county, we don't have that, which is really unfortunate. Yeah, I'm just trying out all the home composting methods.
Mhm.
I've got a tumbler in the backyard. We've got a warm bin going. And I also got a Lomi, which is like a kitchen countertop
Yeah.
compost, which is, it's so cool.
Wait, I want to try that one. Oh my God, that's so interesting. I know that in parts of Los Angeles, because I have family in Santa Monica and they have to compost, which I think is great. Like it's part of the Santa Monica area, whatever. But in where I am, like 30 minutes away, it's not a thing quite yet. So I think maybe we're just like hitting it like section by section because California is huge, obviously. I do think that's so great that like things like initiatives like that are out there at least. But yeah, I need to learn, I need to retry. I need to do it again with a little bit more information now. It was a trial run and I failed, and that's okay. I'm just gonna do it again.
I'll
But
send you resources from Sway.
yeah, there we go. Exactly. This is perfect. So you guys also have poly bags and seaweed windows. Can you explain a bit about each of these as well?
Mhm. Yeah, the difference between these is the material that each of them are. So the poly bags that we have are made from TPC Flex film. Again, this is our more scalable, more affordable, higher volume capability film, and it's better for shipping around the world.
Hmm.
And then the windows that we create are made with First Wave, which we still find to be an incredible product. This is our first product. It's like our baby, but yeah, it's certified home and industrially compostable. It's certified 100% bio-based, but it is better for smaller applications just due to some of the constraints. And windows are the perfect fit since it's a small amount of film and this film is naturally clear. So yeah, it's just helpful to have the option to use a seaweed window like this in the case where that window is still necessary when a brand wants consumers to be able to get a little preview of the product before they buy it.
Interesting. That's awesome. And then you guys can also create custom packaging. How does that work?
Yeah. So some brands have whole teams of designers and they have capacity to create the final form factor. So maybe that's a box with a funky shape or a fully printed poly bag. And if their team wants to take over the design component, we say, heck yeah, go for it, make it your own. But in the case that a brand wants a full service packaging partner, one that's designing the final form factor, doing all of the graphic design, Sway can also provide those services.
Hmm.
And actually, our CEO and co-founder, Julia, was a packaging designer in her career prior to Sway. So we always jump at the opportunity to be part of the final vision.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's so cool. I love the integration of the two passions, packaging design and sustainability. On your guys' website, it says regeneration goes beyond the call for sustainability, encouraging us to design not simply to avoid harm, but to restore and replenish our aching planet. I love that. That is so awesome. Can you talk a bit about the impact that maybe you have seen from the work that you guys have done?
Hmm. Our impact to date is just the beginning. We've piloted with 5 or 6 brands publicly now. We're piloting behind the scenes with another handful as well, just testing and optimizing our product. And we have big plans to expand all of these customers this year. So much more in the works. But what I think is actually a more tangible impact stat to point to is that we're growing a global audience of people who are conscious about the materials that they're using everywhere. Materials are the less sexy side of consumption.
Hmm.
If we're caring about the kinds of fibers that are included in our clothing or the people that farmed the cotton of a fiber, then shouldn't we also care about the ingredients in and the people behind our packaging?
Hmm.
I think that Sway has just done a really good job in our marketing and communications of reaching all kinds of people and just making them think a little bit more about what we're consuming on a daily basis, the materials that we're engaging with. And I think that's probably our biggest piece of impact to date. But in the future, as we start moving real volumes of material, we will be uplifting seaweed farmers around the globe. We'll be creating multi-fold exponential benefits of seaweed farming, like I mentioned earlier in this podcast. And we'll be helping hold the hands of traditional plastic manufacturers who have been working with petroleum-based plastics. We'll be helping them just explore and maybe convert into biomaterial production that can help heal our planet.
Amazing. That's so awesome. I think that's what you said is so important too, because I think that there's so many aspects of sustainability. There's so many things in the world that we might not even think about that could, like, making the slightest alteration to it could really have such a big ripple effect. And packaging is such a big one, or even like I always think about if you have to make an online order or something, or I don't like to shop from Amazon, but as a person who's not 100% sustainable all the time, and even though I try to be, every now and then there is something that arises where I don't know where to get this thing and I really need it by tomorrow. And so if I'm gonna shop from Amazon or I'm gonna shop online, I'm gonna have to already ship something, like making sure just to like do one package of everything rather than being like, oh wait, and then tomorrow I have to make another Amazon purchase and then another one and then another one. So it's like little changes like that. Make one big order rather than a bunch of small ones, or changing the packaging. Like all of these things can have just such a big ripple effect, and there's things that we don't necessarily even think about that often. I think
100%. 100%. It's like, let's just consider every little aspect, you know? We live in this time where everything is so on demand, and it's good to think about things a little bit more.
yeah, definitely just take a second. I was at an estate sale and I liked this item, but I've been way more mindful about what I've been consuming because I have so many clothes, like I do not need more. And so I was like, oh, I like this thing. And I was like negotiating back and forth. And I was like, you know what? I like it, but I don't love it. And I don't think I ended up needing it. And
Mm,
I didn't end up getting it. And I'm like, that's
hmm.
okay.
That's okay. Are you going to think about that probably ever again? Probably not.
And if I do, the estate sale's going on tomorrow. So I'll just go.
There you go. That's like one of my favorite like top tip advice pieces. What you like if you're shopping and you see something that you're like, man, I really like this. I don't know if I need it. Just sleep on it. Go back the
Yeah.
next day. It'll be there.
Completely, completely. I'm such a big, I'll put something in my Depop cart or whatever, or I'll go to the thrift store and then I'm like, if this is still here tomorrow and I need it that badly and it's still here in this thrift store that it very likely could be gone, then maybe it's fate and maybe I should get it if I was thinking about it again the next day. But
But
honestly,
95% of the time, we're forgetting about it.
yeah. I was like, it was a cute jacket, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I'm gonna be thinking about it tomorrow, and I don't think I'm gonna make the effort to go back to the estate sale, which means I didn't need it. I'm happy with my thought process, and I think that we should do that a little bit more often. I keep seeing someone today, there's this audio on TikTok that always pisses me off. So I like it, so I got it in another color. I like it, so I got it in another color, and it keeps going on, and I'm like, no.
No, don't do that.
I really don't need, like, if you're gonna have those 5 shirts for the entire rest of your life, and you're gonna take care of them and it's gonna surpass every trend that's out there, and it's just a really good shirt that you really, really like and you need it in every color, then maybe that's fine. But I really don't think you need it in every color. I certainly don't. And I shop,
Right.
so I don't know. I've just been a lot more mindful of actually consuming things, and I feel like I'm at a point where I have a good collection of things that I think describe me as a person, and now I'm good. I can just take a second. I can take a step back.
Love that. Love that.
So speaking of which, what are some of your top tips for someone who's starting their journey to a more sustainable lifestyle?
Mm. Well, touching on that last bit of our conversation, generally just buy less. It's good for your wallet. It's good for the planet. Before making a purchase, you can ask yourself if you really need it. Is it going to last? Are you going to love this 20 years from now? I heard a stat saying you should use something 20 times at least before it's done. So, I mean, please, I hope that 20 times is the bare
Bare
minimum.
minimum.
Hopefully you have it for your whole life. But yeah, is it part of a micro trend? Are you buying this on impulse? Do you just want it because it's on sale? Because yeah, those are gonna help you filter through.
Mm-hmm.
We all have to consume. We all do have to buy. So when you are, can you shop locally? Can you shop in person? This is a really good way to avoid excess packaging and lower the shipping footprint of whatever good you're looking to buy. And then you're also giving back to your community in the process. Thrifting, secondhand, estate sales, these are all great options, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my personal favorite is having clothing swaps with just huge groups of girlfriends. Get all of your friends together one day, bring all of the bags you've just been lugging around in your car that haven't made it to the donation center yet, and just trade with each other. It's so fun. And then I've also found some really helpful apps that I would love to share with this audience. I think anyone who's listening in today would be really interested. I love Benny. Benny is a browser extension that you can add on to so that when you're shopping around online, it'll pop up with secondhand options that you can purchase instead. Yeah, so cool. And then there's also Beaker, which is like an online database that provides transparency into so many of the most amazing brands that are out there. And it just gives you a score, but it's checking all of these different criteria from the sustainability to how people are treated along the supply chain. So that if you're buying something new, you can feel really good about what you're investing in.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also an app called Commons, which is like, if you want to be tracking your impact over a very long-term period, Commons is where you want to go. It's like a database. It's like an impact tracker, and then you get rewarded for it for your actions as well when you're buying sustainably. I would check out Benny, Beaker, and Commons. Those are awesome.
I've heard of Beaker. I've spoken with one of the people who started it, and I love it. It's great. I've never heard of Benny, and I am looking at it on my Chrome on the other window right now. So that's going to be downloaded immediately. And I am also, the last one was Commons, and I am looking at it on my App Store. So thank you for these because that's amazing. And I always love finding new apps and like Chrome extensions like that. Like what an easy, again, like way to just to just add that extra sustainability thing without even having to like really make it a second thought. So thank you for sharing those because I'm about to use them religiously. And I hope our listeners are too. So what's next for Sway? Are there any upcoming projects that we're allowed to hear about or any goals?
There is something very big happening for us this fall. And I don't know how much I can share here, but the gist is expect multiple launches with big brands coming by the end of the year. We're currently getting all of our ducks in a row. We're sorting out all of the logistics. But pending everything goes smoothly, you should start seeing Sway in the wild a whole lot more often.
That is so exciting. Speaking of which, if people want to stay tuned with that, where can they find you guys on social?
We are very easy to find. Our handle is Sway the Future because we're swaying like seaweed. We're shifting the future.
I love it.
Yeah, we're on pretty much every platform that you can think of. Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, the works. We even have a podcast playlist. If any of the listeners out there are keen to listen to more interviews, head to our Spotify.
Amazing. Well, everyone go follow Sway on social so that you can stay tuned with what's coming soon or just learn more about Sway. And while you're at it, you can follow me on my socials. My Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube are my name, Lexi Silverstein. That's Lexy, silver like the color, Stein. And remember to make the ordinary extraordinary.